against my enemies, yeah. You see, you wanted to save you, and then learn how to rage.
Hello, everyone. What is up? I'm Rob. You're a Slender Man, are you?
I only have 2 arbs, but if I have more arbs, then I'd be like...
That's like, you're like the guy that's outside the like car sales places in America.
The fella flying around the place.
Yeah.
The hot air man.
That's how you're like.
Yeah, Slender Man's kind of like a hot air man, isn't he?
Does that hot air man have a name? I feel like he probably does.
There is a name for them actually, now that you remember.
Is there?
But I don't know what it is. I can't believe this is how we're starting.
It's probably like fucking Slim Jim or something.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it actually is Slim Jim. Let's see.
It's not Slim
What
Jim.
do you call the men filled with air?
yeah, that wave about
outside of gas stations.
Enthusiastically outside gas stations.
What are the big air men
Come on now.
called?
We're trying to figure out. We're answering big questions here early on in this episode. So we are.
A tube man, also known as a sky dancer, air dancer, inflatable man, and originally called the tall boy.
Right, I'm not satisfied with any of those, and I feel like there's a
What are the wind people called? That sounds like I'm playing Avatar again.
That's better.
Go to the wind people, Tikalaku. You must.
Yeah, that's better. The wind people.
Waving balloons. Actually, lots of people are just making up.
Yeah. Not good enough. There should be an official name for that dude. Like he should be. And I'm very surprised he isn't a registered trademark TM wavy dude.
Tube man,
Slim Jim.
tall boy. Seems there's a lot of people are just making up their own ones.
Slim
I think
Jim.
call them whatever you want. Slim Jim would have been. I thought
Jim
that
is
it's like a chocolate bar.
Hope everyone's doing well. Hope you're having a good day wherever you are. Maybe you've seen a Slim Jim today, in which case your day is fantastic.
We don't have a whole lot of them in this country.
None of them.
Very Irish thing. Probably the wind is such that they'd be
Slim
out
Jim
in front
would
of
be
the
gone.
motorways and all.
Actually, all of the Slim Jims are originally from Ireland, and the wind blew them over to America.
Probably, yeah.
And then they took up residence outside.
I came in a coffin ship.
Yeah. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you've seen a Slim Jim. If you have done, send in a picture. Monster Fuzz Podcast on Instagram. If you'd like to do a little bit more, head on over, check out our Patreon. It is the best way to support this show. There's exclusive episodes over there. There's access to our Discord over there. There's ad-free episodes over there. Did I say that already? Who knows? Eamon, if they've seen the Slenderman or they've seen something spooky.
Have you seen the Slender Man? People are reporting seeing him and stuff. It's kind of a bit spooky. Monsterfuzzpodcast at gmail.com. Write in with your scary stories, your glitches in the Matrix, your fun missiles, all those kind of things. Let us know.
So I'm excited about this episode, the Slenderman, because he was like around. I remember him coming to sort of the zeitgeist.
Yeah, I remember watching the Marble Hornets YouTube show, and there's bits of that are really, really unsettling. I think especially one of the early episodes where Slenderman is basically looking in the window, but he's giant, so he's looking in the top window, and he's just standing there. Like, it's very, very, very spooky. But yeah, I think we were all very taken because we were into this sort of madness, and this was a new sort of that's this whole episode is like, it touches on Slenderman, it touches a little bit on the Slenderman attack, but it also goes into like what is digital folklore, like, because this kind of shows in real time how traditional folklore would have spread around the campfire, but this was your online forums, creepypasta, all that sort of stuff
around the SSD.
Something awful. SSD, baby.
So no SSDs back then, but
no, I was going to say
HDD.
I assumed that
we were
talking about some other SSD that
tales around the HDD.
Or the HD TV.
No, the hard disk drive.
No, but the HD TV as well.
That would have been coming in around that time as well. Yeah. But no, it's very interesting. I mean, there was a lot based on the Slender Man as well. That we'll probably talk about.
Well, it turned into a real sort of cash cow to an extent as well, because like they were making movies. The video games did surprisingly well. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and then they've made 2 different movies that are both relative. I don't want to say like high budget, but they were what you'd expect for a horror movie kind of thing.
Yeah, no, there would have been a fairly good buzz around the Slender Man when we were sort of in our early 20s, for sure. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what it's all about, Evan?
If you've never heard of the Slender Man or the Slenderman, Slenderman, get in here. It's a fictional supernatural character that originated as a creepypasta internet meme created by something awful forum user Eric Knudsen, who was known as Victor Surge in 2009. Slenderman he's a thin, unnaturally tall humanoid with a faceless white head and face, wearing a black suit. So basically, he looks like an unnaturally tall mannequin, and he seems to be able to do this weird tentacle stuff.
Yeah, he's got tendrils.
Tendrils, yeah.
He does have tendrils.
Oh yeah, we did a few erotic Slenderman stories back in the day.
We
didn't
did,
we?
yeah. That's what the tendrils are for, baby.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
if you've got tendrils, use them.
I guess so. So stories of the Slender Man commonly feature him stalking, abducting, and traumatizing people, particularly children. The Slender Man has become a pop culture icon, although he's not confined to a single narrative but appears in many disparate works of fiction, typically composed online. Fiction relating to the Slender Man encompasses many media, including literature, art, and video series such as The Marble Hornets, which was on YouTube from 2009 to 2014, wherein he is known as the Operator. The character has appeared in the video game Slender the 8 Pages, which was a free-to-download game, if you remember that. That
brought me back, yeah. Just seeing that.
And you just went around the place looking for that, yeah. The successor, Slender the Arrival, he's inspired the Ender Man in Minecraft, which might mean something to you.
Yeah, he's really cool in Minecraft. He's like, it's one of the villains where if you look at him, he teleports right beside you.
Right.
So you can't look directly at them.
Okay, so there's part of that Slenderman thing that he just appears.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah,
cool. He's appeared in the 2015 film adaptation of Marble Hornets, where he's portrayed by Doug Jones. For anyone who doesn't know, Doug Jones is the guy who's in all the Guillermo del Toro movies. Anytime you see someone who's in like a monster kind of makeup.
All right. He's like his Andy Serkis.
Yeah, pretty much. So he was Abe Sapien in Hellboy. He is the ghost in that. Is it Crimson House? I can't remember.
I don't watch his shit.
No, I've watched. He's Pan's Labyrinth, the fellow with the hands up. So that's Doug Jones Hands. As well. So he's Mr. Hands. Yeah, no, that was the fella in Zoo. Different movie. If you know, you know. Zoo is the documentary about a man who gets buggered to death by a horse.
Oh yeah,
he's like a load of people go down to this. They call it the zoo, and it was in upstate New York or something. Basically, they're all just
bummed by a horse.
Yeah, he gets bummed to death.
Bummed to death
by a horse, which is
happens to the best.
It's certainly one way to go.
Fortune favors.
Can you imagine like what they say at the eulogy? And of course, as we all know, he was.
I don't know even what you do in that scenario. Actually, do you even have a funeral?
Closed casket, man.
No, but even
like the
like,
fucking
do you even have a funeral?
Hugger.
You're like,
you just wash him away.
Yeah, you just have like literally close family and go, right, just get on with it. Like, let's just get on with it.
Let's just
this idiot.
You probably don't
like Jar Squatter and all those people. Do you know what I mean? You're like
who?
Jar Squatter. You don't know about Jar Squatter?
Was that the goat's eye?
No.
Or?
Goat's eye, not Goatsy.
Goatsy.
No, Jar Squatter was the guy who recorded himself squatting on a jar, and he was putting a jar up his hole,
and it broke, and then he had to take the shards out. I never watched that.
No, I'd say he died probably. Like, I don't know. Actually, maybe he didn't.
I couldn't. I just couldn't watch that. Like, I remember people telling me about it. I remember people showed me some stuff on the internet that I just did not want to see. And I'm no better having seen it. The Bud Dwyer video deeply unsettled me.
That didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, but you're a maniac. No,
Bud Dwyer, for our listeners, didn't realise he was the first YouTube algorithm himself on live TV.
Yeah.
With a revolver. He's like, stay back. Oh.
And then, so that was, I was like,
shoot myself.
I think it was just because I'd never seen anything like that before. Like, I remember like Rotten.
I shot at one of the boys.
He went white, pure white.
He came up to my house on the smoke joints. And I was like, here, get a lot of these joints
I smoke so much hash, you won't believe it.
I was like, get all these joints into there, son. Yeah. And then I was like, here, how's about this Bud Dwyer video?
That is a mean trap, to be fair. have a lad smoke a load of hash and then show him a fella YouTube algorithm himself and just see how he adapts to it. That is actually pretty mean when you think about it.
No, it wasn't. It was more organic than what I.
Yeah, I'm sure. You were just sitting there like, no. How do you feel now?
It came about
stoned.
comfortably numb. It came out like organically, like. So
yeah. Like, you ever watch a lad kill himself? No, yeah, I remember seeing that, and it was again a situation where I was in a room full of people, and I remember I'd say for about 24 hours I felt a bit like, ugh, I don't want to have seen that. I wish I hadn't. I think I could watch it now and it wouldn't bother me. I'm so desensitized.
Yeah, like I'm sure it's grand. You know.
Yeah.
It's not that bad of a video.
It actually isn't that bad. I think that's what made it worse at the time, because you kind of go, if someone's head just explodes like Resident Evil, or like, whoa, let's put that on again. It's like there's a feeling of there's too much realness to it. Do you know?
Yeah, I'm a millennial. Like I was watching fucking Jar Squatter when I was like 11.
Yeah. What was it? Someone said there was some.
I don't.
It was like softcore. There was some picture of like some attractive lady in softcore. And he was like, I was looking at Japanese women with eels in their asses when I was 12. What am I meant to do with this? It's sort of, there was a really good comment about how depraved society has gotten.
No, but that's the truth. It's like Bud Dwyer was. By the time I got into Bud Dwyer, I was like. Sure, it's grand.
For you, Bud Dwyer was the most important day of your life, but for me, it was a Tuesday.
Yeah, literally, like, it's like, what? I was watching fucking Taliban. I was getting blown up when I was like 13. Like, what the fuck? I was watching them. Yeah, you know, you don't want to watch them.
No,
like you don't seek them out, but you just happen upon them.
When you sent me those old Beepo videos the other day, these are much more like you know, they're not harrowing. They're quite funny. Probably lads who got bullied quite badly for them. But your man getting across the pipe, I was in Dunnes Stores pissing myself laughing. That was so funny. And it must have looked terrible because Paul had asked me to get a bottle of wine, so I was in the off license part of it where the little doors are closed in. But I was just looking at this poor lad getting stuck on the little roller around bit, and I was just pissing myself laughing.
Hilarious.
They were like, he's not well.
No.
Anyway, that's Doug Jones. Beginning in 2014, a moral panic occurred over the Slender Man after readers of his fiction were connected to several violent acts, particularly a near fatal stabbing of a 12-year-old girl in Waukesha, Wisconsin. The stabbing inspired the documentary Beware the Slender Man, which was released in 2016. So for a period of years there, the Slender Man was big ticket. He was, yeah. Even the Bye-Bye Man, the Tall Man, they made all these movies that were kind of Slenderman adjacent. So I don't think they had to pay royalties because your man actually owns the copyright to it. I believe so. We'll get into it a bit later.
Yeah, because there was Slenderman like Minecraft mods. There was Slenderman who's all over shop. Like, you know what I mean? So let's get back to the origins of the Slenderman. Back in 2009, June 8th, a user on the internet culture forum Something Awful started a thread with an implicit challenge: create paranormal images. 2 days later, fellow forum user Eric Knudsen posted under his alias Victor Surge, created the first snapshot of the Slender Man. He was a faceless, wire-thin, suit-wearing man. In an interview Knudsen would give in 2011, he described the influences that led him to the now iconic design: Zach Parsons' serialized story, That Insidious Beast, the Stephen King story, The Mist, The Rake, and other monstrous creation devised on Something Awful threads, the paranormal reports of Shadow People, Mothman, and the Mad Gasser of Mattoon.
The Mad Gasser of Mattoon, I actually stuck this into my
naughty
notes, my little note composite folder. The Mad Gasser of Mattoon is a mad one. They don't think it was actually real. I think it was a case of mass hysteria, but it was basically people were complaining about gas leaks, and they thought there was this group of people or this lad going around doing gas attacks, but they reckon it's a case of mass hysteria. And I want to say it's like the 1940s, 1950s. But it's a really interesting story because I hadn't heard of it when I was looking at this, And then when I kind of just, veered off to take a quick peek, it actually looks like a pretty interesting episode. So we'll get around to that at some point.
So he said that he used all of this to formulate something whose motivations can barely be comprehended and causes general unease and terror in the population. So there was captions for the first pair of Slender Man images. He said that they only took him 15 minutes to create, provided a little backstory and loads of intrigue. So one of the pictures is basically just a bunch of kind of kids, I suppose, teenagers kind of walking away, looking kind of forlorn. We didn't want to go. We didn't want to kill them, but its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time.
And in the back of that one, you have this kind of weird, blurry image of the Slenderman, which is, I gotta stop calling him Slenderman, like he works in HR or something.
Yeah, and then a couple of days later, another something awful user, LeechCode5, uploaded 2 images of the Slender Man inspired by the original post. The captions pegged the creature as a predator of human children. Why don't you have a seat over here? Are those condoms?
Like sour lemonade.
I was trying to teach the children.
What was his name again? The fella who
I'm Chris Hansen.
Chris Hansen, that was it. Chris Hansen. Why don't you come in? Do you remember the fella who offered him a slice of pizza?
Yeah.
And he was just like, I haven't done anything. I'm just eating a pizza in this young child's house. Totally normal. What's even wrong with you?
Yeah. Must be what a fucking trip that must be.
Oh man. Can you imagine the moment when you realize
Chris Hansen staring at you?
Can you imagine going?
Camera crew walks out.
So let's take out because we don't want to like put ourselves in those shoes because it's so uncomfortable and disgusting. But imagine like the equivalent would be going to someone's house where you're going to hook up with.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden
you're hooking up with your mate's wife.
Yeah. And all of a sudden the husband comes home. Or he known all along.
He knows all
like,
along.
Hi, Eamon, how are you doing? Why don't you have a seat? Let's go over some of the notes he was in with. And now that's a horrible idea, and that being televised and broadcast out. Imagine now it wasn't your friend's wife, and it was his daughter who was like 12.
And you're a nonce.
And it, like,
although everyone knows.
Not to take the side of the nonces, I'm trying to understand. Like, I think it probably is good to show people who are going to do unspeakable things to children like that. But fuck me, it's just. Can you imagine the level of dread that you must feel as a man goes, you're like, I was just trying to help her to know to not to treat herself better and to not be, and there's like, let's read some of the, oh God.
Yeah, hilarious. But anyway, so he did these pictures, and then the Something Awful community latched on to Knudsen's photos. User Trench Mall linked it to an actual 1959 hiking accident in the Ural Mountains where 9 people died. We know that one. Mm-hmm. That is the Dyatlov Pass. Slender Pass, they were calling it, I think.
Yeah, so it even got a casual mention in the Dyatlov Pass. So what's really cool about this is people start to, and you see this in Marble Hornets as well, they do a thing where there's an old, it's an old German wood painting, is it what they call it? Wood clip, where you
wood print.
Wood print, that's it. And they basically sort of say that, oh yeah, he's been around since the 1600s. It's almost like Pennywise from it. Yeah. And they kind of go into the history and you find all these weird things. So it's pretty interesting.
So the pylon of manipulated images and faux documentation eventually dissolved the Slender Man's ties to the Something Awful forums. Anyone who Googled for Slender Man lore would find offshoot sites and stray blogs filled with connections and mythological references. Many wondered if Germany's 16th century monster Der Grobman, I don't know, the Great Man, a spindly creature rumoured to stalk the deepest parts of the forest, was actually a Slender Man. Knudsen had created a monster. An urban legend requires an audience ignorant of the origin of the legend, he said in an interview. It needs unverifiable third and fourth hand or more accounts to perpetuate the myth. Internet memes are finicky things, and by making something at the right place and time, it can swell into an internet urban legend. Like, before we get too much further into it, and you've done the notes, so you might actually know this better than I. Is Slender Man like still a thing now, or is it a thing where it's like kind of like
I think it is.
of
It's
the
just
time.
it's lost a lot of its.
Yeah.
It's not in
It's
the
not as pop
it's
culture-y.
not at the zenith of its
Yeah.
of its pop culture now. But I mean, it's still there, and it's probably the most famous. Like if you think of like The Rake and those sort of, I think Jeff the Killer is another one. All those creepypasta things that we sort of know, especially Jeff the Killer and stuff. They're silly, like the smiling, the dancing man, all those things. Slender Man kind of is the cream of all those stories.
Yeah, it's like it's a creepy image. Like
That's done super well, isn't it?
Yeah,
and it's the kind of tentacly
bit of
morphing
tendrils.
and I think it does capture like what's the reason that the book and the movie especially the first part when they're kids is so alluring, and it's because that idea of when you're a kid, I think when you're a kid, there's a sense that anything is possible. If that makes sense. So like the idea of a monster, the idea of some sort of weird entity seems like it's possible.
Being a competent adult, having loads of money.
That seems possible. But when you get older, you're like, whoa, it's not easy. This is way I sure wish one of those tentacled alien guys would have abducted me when I was a child. But I think that's the thing is that I think it speaks to us on a level where it gives you that kind of comfortable anxiety, and you can relate back to the part of you that was afraid of the thing in the closet or the shadows or something under your bed.
Or Kelly in the closet coming out after you.
Again, real things. There's real things.
Closet.
I saw videos of him just singing with lads in the prison.
Oh yeah,
he's just a load of like straight up killers. And he's like, I believe I can touch the sky.
Having the best time of his life, I'm sure.
He seems to be having a really good time.
Yeah.
You know. So who's the real loser? I guess all those kids he pissed on and trafficked, they were the real losers. So the momentum. It obviously the meme, as we're saying about this, is the genesis of it. It starts to go from here into where it gets pretty popular, and it starts becoming kind of pop culture.
Games are being made. People are talking about it on forums.
So just a month after Knudsen's first images, University of Alabama students Troy Wagner and Joseph Delag launched Marble Hornets, a Blair Witch-like found footage web series. So I will say, if you go to check this out, I believe it's one of the early episodes. The episodes are relatively short. There's a part that might be the 4th episode, but basically the guy is in the hallway of his house, and it's like kind of an open planish. So there's windows up quite high, and outside you see the Slender Man looking in, and he's like 11 feet tall. It's done for, again, a budget of $500. It's done remarkably well. It made these guys a ton of money. They called the Slenderman the operator in this, but it's done incredibly well. I wouldn't say the whole thing is fantastic, but it definitely gets that feeling of oppression and being stalked. It's kind of got Michael Myers vibes, but a more sort of intergalactic entity.
I don't know if I've seen it, which is interesting because I was like terminally online at that time, and I don't remember seeing it. And I would have been very much aware of the of Slender Man.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I used to work in the cafe downtown where you would come in for the tea. It was around then that I was watching it because I bought like my first laptop. And I remember just like being on YouTube and watching that and thinking it was gas crack. That was like the days of JK Cinema. And So, pushing through copycats and a bevy of fan fiction, Wagner and Delage or whatever his name is, produced 26 episodes of Marble Hornets through June 2014, earning enough of a cult following to sell the concept off for a movie. Always watching a Marble Hornet story. Programmer Mark Hadley was one of the hooked. He was inspired by Marble Hornets and a streak of second-person YouTube videos of people playing horror video games.
Let's plays.
Yeah. Again, we were talking about Slender Man, the idea of, you know, these kids being sort of stalked by this thing, and, you know, the kind of the stories that you have, you know, do you have the guys in the red van that take you off the streets and all that sort of stuff. So Let's Plays are a similar thing because it's probably a comforting thing in that you would watch your friends play games, they would watch you play games. If you were a younger sibling, I think it speaks to you even more.
It's basically what it was, you know, like Let's Plays were basically that.
Yeah, there's a channel on when we were in Portugal, I was flicking through the channels and there was a channel that was just Let's Plays. It was just, you know, whatever. It's kind of like it was
PewDiePie Let's Plays. Well, PewDiePie probably played the Slenderman game, by the way.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
So.
He would have done. Well, he did a lot of the Amnesia stuff as well. Didn't he? Poobs. Hadley released Slender, which he titled later to Slender the 8 Pages. It's a first-person survival game where players wander through a forest in search of a Slender Man-themed manuscript. Stalking you as you search is the faceless being. Linger too long in one spot and he gets you. Find all 8 pages and he still gets you. The simple explanation is that there really is no story of the game, Hadley said in 2012. I left out a lot of backstory with the intent of making a short horror experience rather than a full storyline. I think it's creepier to leave things up to the imagination of the players.
Yeah, so there was a nice little wave around this time of creepypasta. There was a lot of mods being made for video games that added a horror element. One of the ones with Minecraft was there was the Herobrine thing, and Herobrine was like, do you know the little Minecraft Steve dude with little blue shirt, the main character, like, even though he's not a character as such, but basically there was a whole creepypasta based on Minecraft where someone was like playing the game
and he sort of comes at you,
and he just kind of comes at you and starts doing his own thing, and like there's no other character in the game and it's not programmed to have that, and he's the exact same as you except he has white eyes. And so like at the time, like Minecraft was probably at its peak of the wave, and
because you were massive.
Minecraft, everyone anyone that had a PC really at the time was playing a lot of Minecraft, you know, and it became such a thing that there was mods and stuff made of it that were actually really cool and really well done, but like they had mad followings. Like I'm talking about like the likes of PewDiePie and stuff making videos where they'd have millions of views. All these like creepypasta based games, things like that, and like you said, Amnesia was another one, and there was a lot. It was a cool time to actually be into kind of creepypasta, spooky stuff.
Yeah, I think so. And there was a lot of people that were, you know, they would make these little games. They probably put a lot of effort into them. And then, you know, they might take off. Yeah, they might not. You know.
So we'll talk a little bit about the creepypasta there. Slender Man gained serious traction as a creepypasta antagonist. An example of how these creepypastas continue to perpetuate the ideas that Slender Man was real was featured in the story The Tall Man, which is said to be an old Romanian folktale.
Yeah, so again, it's kind of, if you're reading this and if you can imagine being someone who's maybe 12, 13, 14, maybe a little bit younger, and you've been texting with a man online. If you're kind of, there's a part of you sort of your disbelief is being suspended because of your age. So if you start to see stories that you'll take it at face value, like, oh, this must be real because it's a Romanian folktale, and then eventually you have to get off the computer and go to bed, and then that's when you start getting the nightmares and the Weetabix. Yeah.
In The Tall Man, a family's Slender Man encounter ends with a mother urging one of her daughters to kill the other. When the sister refuses, she runs back home to tell her father, who heads to the woods to hunt down the creature. The lone sister remains at the house and hears a heavy knocking at the door. "I am your mother," said the knocker, "and I told you it would be worse." And the door, locked tight before her father left, fell open as if it was left ajar. And the mother stepped in, her sister's head clutched in one bloody hand, her father's in the other. "Why?" wept Serena. "Because," said her mother, "there is no reward for goodness. There is no respite for fate. There is nothing but cold steel teeth and scourging fire for all of us. And it's coming for you now, true." And the tall man slid from the fire and clenched Serena in his burning embrace. And that was the end of her. The Slender Man of Marble Hornets and Slender the 8 Pages portrays a being who stalks his victims. The creepypasta stories and adaptations launched at the crest of the phenomenon leaned hard into the violence. The web series Tribe 12 gave credence to the idea of the Slender Proxy, a human who serves Slender Man, either drawing victims to the monster's lair or killing, hunting on behalf of the creature. The concept was practical. Slender Man was a character best served when lurking in the shadows, but creators needed actors to actually appear on screen. No.
Yeah, he is like, if you make a movie about Slenderman, you can't really show him properly, and if you do, it has to be very sparingly.
Yeah,
it's not scary otherwise.
Yeah, it's tricky, like, because I think more even the whole like suit angle and all could probably go for me. I think even just the idea of something unnaturally tall and kind of weird.
I think the unnaturally tall part is really scary. Like, there's like, even when you hear those Bigfoot stories occasionally where someone's like, it was a 15-foot bit, like just the idea of something 15 feet tall that is already scary is pretty unsettling.
Insidious kind of had a Slender Man. Remember that dude that was like, he was up at the second story.
Demon kind of fella.
Yeah.
There's a demon fella, and there was I think it's The Conjuring. You have the Crooked Man.
Yeah,
he's pretty spooky as well. He doesn't appear in it for long. It's in the second one. I think he comes into it
because in Insidious there's that creepy scene where that dude is up on the second story window, like, and he's looking in.
Is that the first Insidious?
Yeah. It's the guy.
It's not the demon guy.
No,
with the black
not that
face,
no. It's the other demon with the kind of whitey face and the black slick back hair. Looks a bit like fucking Sting out of WWE or something. He doesn't appear in it too much. He's
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm sure.
No, there's a scene where it's like nighttime and they're all fucking freaked out, and like, again, it's another one of those like, here's a flash of him, but like, it's his head looking in the window.
Yeah, so it's unnaturally. But it's the second. There is something, isn't there? Though it is like
simple creepiness.
Is it just the uncanny? Because ordinarily it's like being around a tall person probably signifies some level of security. Yeah. There's something in our DNA that probably associates taller people with being better able to defend themselves.
Big Mickey,
hard arse, Big Mickey.
Nice and cool and everything.
Nice and cool. But I guess if you go back to when everybody was fit as fuck.
Good at tricks.
Good at nollie 360s and all.
Tricks and all.
But I guess if we're all back in the caveman days, everyone's really built well. They're probably all very strong. Just the natural reach advantage that a taller person would have is, you would imagine. Maybe. I mean, there's got to be something like that.
Maybe though we would have been battered as teenagers because they knew that we get too strong. That happens
keep us in our place.
Yeah,
but that might have
killed.
Oh, like,
killed. Just battered to death.
Not like a Risso or anything.
No, proper battered. Look, the old second story tallness, tricky, scary.
If we pull back that curtain and there was a face looking in there, I'd fart.
I'm scared. Way the biggest.
Yeah.
It's just what can you say? It's creepy. Now, could he be on a ladder? Maybe.
In which case,
if he's on a ladder, it's kind of like ha ha ha. But like, if he's not, you're like, oh bollocks.
Oh yeah, if he's not on a ladder,
which actually is kind of interesting. Why, like?
Because he's going to have more trouble doing anything at that height.
To be fair, I think in Insidious, your man walks away, which kind of implies like, he's not on a ladder or just like standing there hanging from the ledge or something,
Yeah, I don't like it. And again, it's that uncanny thing. It's like, it's normal, but the size of it makes it unnatural. And that's scary. But anyway, we do have life imitating art.
Oh.
So, the most popular of the Slender proxies was Tiki Toby, created by DeviantArt user Costaway. Poor old Tiki Toby was already plagued by mental and physical disorders. He witnessed his sister's death at the age of 17, and he goes completely over the edge. The voices in his head tell him to kill his father, which he does with a hatchet in front of his mother. And the story ends with Toby lighting his neighborhood on fire to cover up his crime. Just before the flames engulf him, Slender Man teleports the boy to safety.
Class.
Class. That's a pretty good story.
Yeah.
So Tiki Toby gains popularity in the Slenderverse, particularly amongst the creepypasta fiction group. At first, Castaway hoped to control this popular character, asking other creepypasta writers not to ship him, which is the fandom term for imagining relationships with other characters without his permission. However, stories of Toby and the other Procties continued to be written and would go on to inspire a tragic real-life Slenderman proxy.
Do you think anyone's ever shipped us for like different relationships with people?
Nah.
Fandom?
No. Well, actually...
would,
we have had people write in. Well, that's right into us.
We had that lad that drew a picture of me and you bombing, and then he was like,
"That wasn't great.
Can I send it to you, man?" I was like, "Probably not."
And then he just sent it anyway. Like,
no, I didn't. I'm like, what am I going to do with that? Like, like, what am I going to do with a really graphic picture
it's such a weird
of me
thing
and you
where
bombing?
we're like.
I have ditties in it as well. It's a good picture, like, don't get me wrong.
We do this podcast and like we enjoy talking about cryptids.
But where am I going to put that? Like,
but we've never expressed a want to bum each other on this podcast.
I can't even put it there, like, because like I'd have to censor it for YouTube. Like, there's like literally nothing I can do with it.
If there's one thing I don't want to look at, you know,
who would they ship you for now? Do you reckon if they were shipping you? Like, I'm trying to think who our listeners would want to ship Eamon with.
Filled out by the Slender Man.
Doesn't have
you do some
like,
sort of weird, like, no, but you'd have something with Michele and Bembe, some sort of lust.
Oh well, if it was a cryptid thing, that's different. Like,
oh, you mean just in general? Is that kind of like just general fan fiction?
Yeah.
I think you could do a good story about me helping Jeff Hardy training me to become the next high flyer.
Yeah.
He's in NXT.
Watched an interview with him actually there last week
on Chris Van Vliet.
Yeah.
It's a good interview.
It's good because he's one of them people now that I don't know whether it's because he's done so many drugs or because he's actively on drugs where he looks like he's on drugs all the time.
I think it's the second one. Yeah. So at a certain point, there's no turning back. It's like, nah, that's you now.
He just has that kind of like...
We have those like for two lads that don't smoke hash. Because we smoked so much hash when we were younger, we now have the heads. Like people always think, "Oh, sure, you definitely smoke hashy," and I was like, "I can't," because we did too much at the wrong time.
So you reckon people would ship you and Jeff Hardy?
Me and Jeff Hardy,
that's true,
in a tag team against Matt Hardy and you. Or so it'd be something like that.
Me and Leighton, man, you know,
Amy Dumas.
Yeah, you and Jeff are each other for him swanton bombing on your Mickey.
There's one
Jeff, I lie on the floor nude.
The Mickey was hard. He's got Jeff right in the back. Oh no. But like, I will say, Trish Stratus and Tiffany Stratton did a little bit of a tag team there. Tiffany Stratton, probably 20 years younger than her. Trish, it's still Trish. What does that mean? It's still Trish. What? How can I make it any clearer? It's still Trish.
Poor wrestler or...
No, she looks amazing. Trish Stratus, who...
she does,
I mean, was always fairly top tier. Now, look, we all like Lita a bit better because she had those weird high-angle thong that came out of the pads. We were all only children and we were like, what is even happening there? I'm curious and afraid at the same time. Do you remember when she was with S.A. Rios? There's a nervy name you haven't thought of in about 15 years, I'd
You're
say.
S.A. Rios.
I am S.A. Rios. Lucha Libre. Is that
so, man. Good old times now.
Man, wrestling, I think we were talking about things from your childhood bringing you comfort. Wrestling is something that it brings comfort.
It don't do it for me anymore because I think they're all whack nowadays. But I was watching The Simpsons again. That does it for me.
Yeah. I think anything that imprinted on you when you were a kid.
Well, I loved wrestling, but the old shit I can
nowadays
watch.
one.
Nowadays is a bit
I get it.
Like,
the only time I ever watch it is
I did enjoy that John Cena
when you turned heel. Did you see the thing that
the meme with the fucking face on?
You can't see me. Jon Stewart did like a thing where he was trying to. That was hilarious.
That was quite good.
That was very good. Yeah. It's really all right. So we've obviously added a bit of levity to this. We're about to add some sort of dark vibes. So this is actually, to be fair, myself and
those conspiracy guys,
we did this in like the first season when we were all huddled around one
would have been
microphone.
Not long after this happened, right?
Yeah, so it was around the same time, and as we were doing it, you know the way when Slenderman shows up, there's like static and all the electrics go weird. All the gear went berserk, and Gordo in the kitchen where we were recording, and it was in James's Street in Dublin, so it was fucking dangerous to know Slenderman was the least of your troubles. Like, and I'd be walking home by myself at 2 a.m. because Gordo wouldn't let you go home when you had work the next day. But there was a window over to the right, and I remember I had this like schoolboy terror in me that when I would look over, because I could see it out of the corner of my eye, like that Slender Man, the face would just be there and
man.
it would just move by. But it was we all got like suitably creeped out when
So you, Paul and Gorda?
Yeah, back in the day. So anyway, we're getting into it now. On May 31st, 2014, two 12-year-old girls in Waukesha, Wisconsin, held down and stabbed one of their 12-year-old classmates 19 times. When questioned later by the authorities, they reportedly claimed that they wished to commit a murder as a first step to becoming proxies for the Slender Man, having read about it online. They also stated that they were afraid that Slender Man would kill their families if they did not commit the murder. After the girls left the scene, the victim crawled out of the woods to a roadway. A passing cyclist alerted the authorities, and the victim survived the attack. Both attackers were diagnosed with mental illnesses but were charged as adults and faced up to 65 years in prison. One of the girls reportedly said Slender Man watches her, could read minds, and could teleport.
True.
Which is true. That Slender Man can do all those things. Experts testified in court that she also said she conversed with Lord Voldemort and one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's also
Which one do you think? If you were talking to Slender Man, Lord Voldemort, you'd need a bit of levity. You need to be talking to Michelangelo.
It has to be.
It has to be Michelangelo. Whoa!
Yeah,
Whoa!
that crazy bitch.
Shit spider pizza, bro. On August 1st, 2014, she was found incompetent to stand trial. My boss says that to me a lot. You're incompetent. I'm like, oh, thanks. Thanks, bro. And her prosecution was suspended until her condition improved. On December 19th, 2014, the judge ruled that both girls were competent to stand trial. In August 2015, the presiding judge ruled that the girls would be tried as adults. I always think this is a funny thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm obviously not in favour of children being stabbed by other children or anyone at all.
I am.
But Rob is into it. He likes it. Is it a weird thing? What do you think? If a 12-year-old does something like this, that they should be tried as if they're an adult?
Weird, yeah.
Right?
No.
And again, not saying that they should be released or anything like that.
No. Like, you have to think about, so, at age 12, if you're doing, now don't get me wrong, you're doing something extremely heinous.
Yeah.
So there's two ways of looking at it. One is, what was that? There was that really heinous case in England where
Jamie Bulger.
Two boys took the young lad and murdered him.
James Venables. The other fellow's name.
So one of them is still a nonce, like.
Yes, one of them seems to have been born evil.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is like he was quote unquote like rehabilitated as best as they could, and he was still a nonce and he's still fucking around, right? Then the other fella I think is a bit more straight. I might be wrong.
I think the other fella, there was images of him. He was in college or he was out.
Right.
He was living a relatively normal life.
Like,
I don't think he's been in trouble since.
You see, it's a tough one. There's two ways of looking at it. Like a lot of people would say, like, you're trying to. Prison's about rehabilitation, right? That like ultimately that's the end goal, unless we decide that no, if you've done something like that, you're just locked away forever, and that's that. And now a lot of people would be okay with that, and to be honest, sometimes I'm okay with that too. I think there's
probably an element where both things are true. There's an element of like you've done something very bad, and society almost wants an element of penance.
Yeah,
which I think is fair. There's something about justice for people belonging to the victims and justice for the victims themselves as well. Which again, generally speaking, I think I would be of the opinion that a lot of the times people may not have the full control of their faculties. You could make the argument that it's much worse to be a white collar businessman who defrauds people of millions than someone who's 12 and stabs someone to death. But the way that we view it is different, because you get the impression that the 12-year-old is sort of like just of their environment and their brain chemistry. They don't seem to have had enough life experience to make the kind of decisions, or maybe they do. Again, I'm kind of just freewheeling here, but it seems like a 12-year-old can't be as evil as someone who's 40 and knowingly doing something really
I get
up,
you. But then you read about sometimes what these kids do, like even the Anna Kriegel case as well as
that's very true. That's disgusting.
And you're like, for our listeners not from Ireland, it was a fairly well-known murder case here where two young lads, teenagers, murdered another teen girl in a very sinister sort of planned out, premeditated way. And you know, when you read about that, what happened, how they were before and after, then you're kind of like, you know what? It's tough.
I tend to agree.
Like, I don't know. I suppose, is there much to be added by putting them back out there? Like,
do you just say this is Sparta and you kick them into a hole? Yeah, does society get much, like, does them getting out, does the positive of them getting out outweigh the negative that they've caused everyone? Yeah.
Probably not, and probably never, unless they become some kind of Gandhi figure.
Unless they can get to a point where they recognize what it was that brought them to that place at a young age, and maybe tried to campaign.
Yeah, and try to give back.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like one of those things, if you could tell into the future, if you could see into what would be, you would sort of, the person who would contribute good, you would want to rehabilitate them, have them serve their sentence, and then reintegrate to society and be a force for good. Not unlike sometimes you see like those gang members that educate other kids about not getting into gangs because they see how fucked up it was. Yeah. But they've probably done some pretty heinous stuff.
That's actually a really good line of work for former prisoners, is that kind of work, because they can get employed in it and they obviously have a bit of experience and they can kind of shine a light on it. So that kind of stuff is super valuable. But it's always going to be a tricky question for me with kids, and when they do stuff like that, I think there are things that, like most kids, like most kids, even kids from like really bad backgrounds, really bad upbringings, don't murder other kids at a young age. No. So it's such a fucking heinous thing.
And you kind of imagine that, because you imagine that something, again, there must be some sort of brain chemistry,
but they just kill something like not more, much less a person is like, what?
Well, a person that's likely screaming for you to stop, you know, it's and to plot it out
head, like,
absolutely,
completely fucking bananas. Like,
it's and don't get me wrong, I know kids and the level of empathy a child has is much more diminished.
Yeah, that's true.
Even if you look back on your own life, there's times where you look back on when you're like late teenage or 20s and all you're going, and just realizing like, like you were way more, not that you were narcissistic,
egocentric.
Your egotistical traits and egocentric, and like everything was about you, even if it wasn't in an outward way. Like if you felt a way, you couldn't necessarily understand how someone else might feel. And when you look back on that, I think it's just a gradual learning empathy. But with these kids, there's not having empathy, and then there's having sadism. Yeah. And in this case, it seems that there's, you know, we get into the mental health aspects of it a bit more, but it seems like that played a role as well.
Right.
I think the problem you have here is it's very easy to just sort of say, no more creepypastas. Do you know what I mean? Like, no more.
Ban the creepypastas.
It's that kind of Marilyn Manson thing where they're like, this music is causing lads to go into college. Like, it's not, because the vast majority of people aren't influenced by things like this.
No.
You know, like Caligula, was he watching fucking, you know, it's just, I think some people are just wrong-uns. They're born wrong.
Oh yeah. If they weren't doing that, they'd be doing something else.
You know, exactly. Like, so anyway, they're August 2015 to be tried as adults. They're tried separately. On August the 21st, 2017, one of the girls, who is now 15, pleaded guilty to being a party to attempted second-degree homicide, but claimed she was not responsible for her actions on grounds of insanity. So obviously that's her defense lawyer who's trying to find, he effectively working for her. Although prosecutors alleged that she knew what she was doing was wrong, the jury determined that she was mentally ill during the attack. On December 21st, Waukesha County Circuit Judge Michael Bowron sentenced Anissa Ware, then 16 years old, to be hospitalized for 25 years from the date of the crime, which would mean she'll be institutionalized until she's 37.
So like
Michael Myers, this is like the Halloween backstory.
This is the thing, right? So they're saying she was mentally ill during the attack. Like,
I think by mentally ill,
shouldn't
they
most
mean,
people be mentally ill during periods like that?
I think what they mean was, it's like the legal definition of mentally ill, because I think you're right, most people are probably mentally
to be able
to do something. I think what it is you have diminished responsibility legally because your brain is in such a state that like if you killed someone to save your family and you truly believe that, you would have to have some sort of diminished responsibility just because it's still not, you know, the right thing to do is go to the police and be like, Slender Man's after me, man. But I guess that's the whole thing, is they can't really think rationally. And at that age as well, it's fucking hard to think rationally anyway, you know? But I think that's the legal thing, is it's about like, even if you have a really bad mental illness, but if you know what you're doing is against the law, whether you think it's wrong or right, if you know it's against the law and you have the capacity to understand that, I think they can't try you. They can't use the mental illness defense.
Interesting.
I believe, or they can use it, but it just may not work. Like if I'm naked on the streets smearing shit all over the place and I do something wild, they'd be like, yeah, he was not in a well place. But if I went to work earlier that day, seemed normal, and then said I just sort of had a episode.
So hang on then. So if you want to murder someone, so you just murder him, then you get naked and run around and cover yourself in shit and all.
Potentially get naked beforehand. I'd say you'd need to lead up to it. If you were going to like... So,
but that's the point, though. It's like, versus if you want insanity versus if you want just going to fucking straight up prison.
I think most people are like, if you're going to murder someone, it's like you want the cake and eat it. You want to murder someone but not go to prison. And from what I've understood, if you ever heard of Broadmoor, that's the one where Moira Hinchcliffe and stuff like that.
Moira Hindley, excuse
me. Tony Heath. Tony Hinchcliffe. But that place is like a fella, they did a documentary on it, and he basically sort of fooled people into thinking he was insane to get in there.
Joke's on you.
Yeah, he said it's so horrible in there that he would much rather go, because he probably have, this will be cushy and all, like, no, you're surrounded by a load of criminally insane people. Like, this is not an ideal place to be.
There was that woman in Ireland there a couple of years back who murdered the kids, remember? And the poor bastard, the dad, like I think they were relatively happily married, and he went out or something, or he was working, I don't know, whatever. And he came home and the kids were dushed, and the wife had done it, and they had to arrest her, lock her up. And I think she's out.
Really? Well, yeah, because it's not like...
And but it was like they judged it to be like bananas insane thinking. And they were like, okay, well, like they had analysed her and they said, yeah, she had like some kind of paranoid
episode,
mad Chris Benoit vibes.
I made my family disappear.
And then she did that. And so imagine that, like...
Yeah, this is it, and especially I think it's one of those, like, you assume that on the sort of the weird winding road that leads to mental illness, there's certain tells. Yeah, it's very rare that someone just all of a sudden goes like, wow, like
there's tells for, you know, yourself and myself now are very genius type of people, very intelligent. We'd spot it, but. You know, I think, like, I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of people now who might be a bit wide-eyed to the old hysteria and madness.
Like, possibly, yeah.
Like, they wouldn't know the tells for it, like.
And maybe, I guess, if your partner is someone who's relatively quiet and kept to themselves anyway, you can't always be sure what demons lurk inside their frontal cortex.
Yeah, like, imagine that. But here's the... Like, imagine not knowing that about someone and having no idea, and then just coming home and your whole family's dead.
It must be.
And you're like,
yeah,
all right.
You're like, okay.
And she's like going like, oh, you know, fucking Jesus made me do it or something. And you're going like, all right.
Yeah, I'll make you a cup of tea there, love. You're just like 999. Yeah, well, I mean, imagine you're married to a fella for X amount of years, and then all of a sudden the police show up and he's been downloading thousands and thousands of images of like bad stuff on the internet. All of a sudden it starts to unspiral that he's been involved in all these horrible
Pizzagate.
Yeah, Pizzagate. He is Pizzagate. He's the one making the hamburgers or whatever. But like, that must be such, like, how do you ever trust someone again if you've been in love with someone for years and this is like a secret life? Or even if take it to a lesser thing, like if someone's been having a years long affair on you and a second family and stuff like that.
It's just life, isn't it?
This is it, yeah. As Ernest Hemingway said, the only way you can trust somebody is to trust them.
He's right.
The only way you can learn to trust somebody, rather, or find out if you should trust somebody.
He's right. Was Ernest Hemingway?
Shot himself in the head. Yeah, he was.
He was gay, was he?
No, he was a womanizer.
So Oscar Wilde was gay.
Oscar Wilde was gay, yeah. He was in the gutter.
Wild Oscar.
At the start. Oh no, Wild Oscar's around.
You should make a professional wrestler called Wild Oscar.
Oscar.
That could be your...
That'd be pretty good. Have you seen Cocaine?
Yeah, he's the
White
man,
Cane,
yeah.
He's pretty good. Wild Oscar would be pretty good. Yeah.
Wild Oscar do like, alas, poor Yorick, and throw a fucking skull at some motherfucker or something. And there you go now.
That'd be Shakespeare.
Wild Oscar. Oh, that's Shakespeare.
How did you...
What was Oscar Wilde?
Oh my God, it's the Bard! The Bard!
There you go.
Oscar Wilde was, he was in the gutter, but he was looking up at the stars.
All right.
I have nothing to declare except my genius. Ooh, and this vibrating willy for pleasure and fannies.
Yeah, we need a Shakespeare one as well, then, evidently.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. The Bard would have to be Shakespeare.
Shakespeare, though, his finisher could be despair.
Oh yeah, it has to be
Shakespeare.
Yeah. He does some sort of shaky spear thing or whatever. Oh my God, a Midsummer Night's Dream! Wow! Yeah, you can have fun with it. In a statement to the media on June 4th, 2014, Eric Knudsen, who had created Slendies, said, "I'm deeply saddened by the tragedy in Wisconsin and my heart goes out to the families of those affected by this terrible act." He stated that he would not be giving interviews on the matter, which I think is probably the right thing to do. On September 25th, 2017, it was reported that Morgan Gieser, then 15, had agreed to plead guilty to attempting to commit first-degree homicide in an arrangement that would allow her to avoid jail time. Like, when I was 15, I was still reading Resident Evil novels. Can you imagine, like, I just such a
15 now.
bizarre...
I could have probably went to either way, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have murdered someone or nearly murdered someone, attempted to murder someone.
Yeah, I dropped out of school that year. Yeah, I was ride or die now. Probably could have ended up burning down the school, maybe.
You've done quite well for someone who was at a crossroads.
Yeah, if I was in America now...
that school was done.
Yeah.
Your dad definitely would have had a gun as well. Like, you would have been fucked.
The boys would have been fucked.
Yeah.
Nah, man. 15, Slender Man, give me a bit of Slender Man when I was 15, but you know what I'm saying?
Coming into the school in a trench coat.
I know, I was like 15, I was reading a lot of communist manifestos, Che Guevara books.
Yeah, one thing I will say for the communists, they're not known to shoot up a school.
Had Guerrilla Warfare Handbook.
Oh, yeah.
Anarchist Cookbook.
The motorcycle diaries and all.
Did have the Anarchist Cookbook on the PC. You can't get that apparently anymore. Apparently that's like difficult to get now.
Because it tells you how to I've never read it.
The Anarchist Cookbook, yeah. That was literally one of the first things. Like as soon as I got on the internet, I was like, oh, I need that.
Yeah.
That was like that and like Pokemon ROMs.
Yeah, that's funny. Because one of the first things I ever tried to look at was Satan. Because I was always like into spooky stuff, so I wanted to scare myself. And who's a bigger scare than the devil himself? But what I didn't realize was I typed it in, but I spelt Satan wrong. I spelled it Satin.
Oh,
and
nice.
one of the first things that popped up was Satin dolls, and I was like, ah! I freaked out.
I had it. Yeah, I had it down. I think I tried to print the Anarchist Cookbook as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a lot. It was big. like it was a big document. Good times, yeah, halcyon days, you know. But that's like that. Like I don't think you could even get that shit's like now. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that, and it takes like 5 seconds to find it. It is the internet after all. But
that's what
I think that like there was a whole thing about that for people. Like it's not
maybe easily. Yeah. I was gonna say that you probably find the stuff on the internet anyway, but I mean, sure, we're getting into the age of banning things and censorship and. I don't like what you say.
But there's a lot of
Bilal
stuff.
Muhammad can't have his Palestinian flag on the UFC. Like we're getting into weird.
There's lots of weird stuff in that, like how to make YouTube algorithm's going to love us again here. Just to celebrate hitting 1,000 subs. How to make like
Joke's on you, YouTube. Fuck you.
How to make like a light bulb bomb and all this type of stuff.
Light bulb bomb. Wow. How would you do that?
Well, we won't
On this
talk about
podcast.
her,
Tell.
but yeah, no, lots of stuff like that. So yeah, long story short, when I was 15, you know, could have went either way. No.
I don't think I had the patience to try to make things that would destroy people. I used to look at a lot of fan art of The Crow. I did a huge amount of that when I was like like when I think back to it, an uncomfortable amount of looking at people draw Eric Draven. That was like a big part of my life for a few years.
No, I was definitely one of them dudes that was like misapplying, or like I was like putting all of my mental energy into the wrong things, and I probably, had I have went down the wrong way, I could have ended up doing something completely fucking.
And again, maybe it shows, you know, an element of, there's a leniency for children who do crazy stuff like this, but also, to your point, there is the other side of it, whereas they could just be bad dudes.
Yeah, there's two ways. Like, one is you go down the wrong path, and then the other is there's people that are just inherently bad. Yeah, probably. Like,
people that can be reformed and learn. I think that at a certain point, like, I don't know, can you learn empathy? Like, can you sorry, after you're at a certain age? You know, like, you know that you ever see those ads, it's like, don't beat your wife or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no one who beats their wives are going like, oh fuck. Like, it doesn't stop that behavior.
No.
Do you know? Like, if the law is like,
they don't have that on their conscience. Like, it's just not even.
Because I was thinking, like, how can you like
or maybe they do and they don't care. I don't know.
But if you don't care, then it can't be very strong on the conscience. Yeah, because I think like we can do things where you might say to your buddy, I had a fight about this or whatever, and you feel bad about it, but they'd be like, it's like that, like nothing to feel bad about kind of a thing, you know? But anyway, interesting. On February the 1st, 2018, the Associated Press reported that Geeser had been sentenced to 40 years in a Wisconsin mental hospital, which was the maximum sentence allowed. So Terry Bogard came down and he said, "Power Geeser! Are you okay? Buster Wolf!"
Big old king of fighters. Yeah, I mean, look, I remember this story when it happened. Like,
yeah.
I remember just thinking, this is fucking mental, basically, to be
crazy.
honest with you. So Slender Man panic. The stabbing in Waukesha spawned a nationwide panic across the United States.
So this is kind of similar to satanic panic and stuff like that we would have covered in the past.
Parents were worried about the potential dangers that stories about Slender Man might pose to children's safety. I will say at that time, and I do think that like the likes of 2018, so maybe a little bit after this, well, it was even 2017 and before 2014. When did this?
I think it actually happens in 2014. Right. It's just 2018 when they're getting sentenced and they're kind of organizing all the legal stuff. So yeah, so at that time, right, a bit later than that, but like there was a lot of people on PCs, like probably more than there ever was, because like there was games like Minecraft, games like Roblox and all started to come out, and PC again became this like thing for everyone to go back on, because it was for a couple of years it died on its arse. Like there was a brief period of time where like AIM died, MSN died, MySpace kind of went to the shitter, phones started to get better, the apps were a little bit better, and then, you know, people stopped using laptops and PCs as much, just for a little while. And was it that these games that got popular, like they weren't so high end that you needed a bananas PC? So, they were like really addictive, but not like super power consuming.
So then everyone was just on PCs again. All of a sudden, it was like this wave, you know. So get to the, where am I here? Oh yeah. So Russell Jack, a police chief from Waukesha, warned of the Slender Man stabbing would be and should be a wake up call for parents. The internet is full of dark and wicked things. This is very true. After hearing the story, an unidentified woman from Cincinnati, Ohio, told a WLW TV reporter in June 2014 that her 13-year-old daughter had attacked her with a knife and had written macabre fiction, some involving the Slender Man, who the mother said motivated the attack. So this would have been prime time, actually, 2014. Yeah. This was like, motherfuckers were chronically online. On September 4, 2014, a 14-year-old girl in Port Richey, Florida, allegedly set her family's house on fire while her mother and 9-year-old brother were inside. Police reported that the teenager had been reading online stories about Slender Man, as well as Atsushi Akubo's manga Soul Eater. Have you read that?
I've seen all of Soul Eater. It doesn't make someone want to burn down their family's house.
What is it called?
It's pretty good. It was on. I watched it when I was living in Canada, so about 2014. Yeah, this around the time. I really enjoyed it. It's very simplistic, just anime. I didn't read the manga. I bought a buddy of mine one for his birthday from the Soul Eater. What I would say here is, we've talked about it before, the idea of thought forms. So even if we know the Slender Man isn't real, is it possible that there's something going on here? It's almost like they're invoking the Slender Man. Yeah. The energy, the malignant energy of the Slender Man. Because these people are doing the things. Now, again, from a purely material point of view, you just go, no, they're just emulating bullshit that they're reading. 100%. But is it possible, because we talk about these sort of entities, like, to them, Slender Man is real in this moment, I guess.
There's a lot of weird stuff that was going on around this time too, where like trolls, like, and groups of trolls would like be trying to actively seek out kids and fuck with them.
Really?
Yeah, so like you would have got things like on 4chan and stuff where like people were out actually actively trying to like find kids, fuck with them,
like try to get them to do some weird fucked up shit.
Fucked up shit or dumb shit. Like there was I remember a live stream where like I was so annoyed at the guy doing it that I was like, I wish I could kick this fucking dude's hole. Basically, he, like, it was a kid was live streaming and he was like, you know, some like harmless little fucking kid. He was probably like 13 or something. And like he didn't know his arse from his elbow, and that was very apparent. And like, on one hand, there was kind of a humorous element to it, but then also...
I can see like the smile creeping into your face as you were talking there.
But like it also wasn't like... Okay. So like the kid, I think, had like a new laptop.
Okay.
And like these trolls like got on to the kid.
You might have told me this
and
before.
Like, yeah, they were pretending to be like Microsoft support or something, and the poor kid, like, and they're like, you know, this is brand new, that probably cost like €700, or it's probably his ma's laptop or something, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, you need to put like, you know, put the laptop in the microwave. And like it's all on video, and he's like popping the laptop in the microwave and like turning on the microwave, and the fucking thing is going on fire and shit. And he takes out and like, oh yeah, now you need to put it in the sink and all. And like he's like putting like, they're making him do all stupid shit, like put butter on it or something, or like I don't know what, like,
right, yeah.
And he's doing everything. And then even in the video, the ma is like, I think on the phone to him at some point in it or something, and she's like, what the fuck have you done?
What are you doing?
But like, yeah, so that shit back then was rampant.
But back then was a time when people would ring your house phone, and just be like, oh, we're here ringing from the security company to check.
Yeah.
That's such a thing. Like, so yeah, I forgot. It was in that age where we didn't really realize about security and what was going on. Now, no, like lads from India ringing me trying to get me to put margarine on my laptop.
But these were American lads.
Yeah.
These were just like little, and the American kid was fuckers. So small.
But that's it. If you were a 13-year-old, you got a call from you know the security company. You probably go, oh yeah. I mean, they're doing the same shit now. How often do you get a call from Belgium on your phone? I'm constantly getting them. Hi, your Revolut account seems to have some problems.
So there's. Yeah, this was a time of like fuckery, basically.
So this was the new frontier of the internet, basically.
Was, yeah. So
Eddie Daniels, I think you're on.
Yeah, so Eddie Daniels of the Pasco County Sheriff's Office said the girl had visited the website that contained a lot of Slender Man information and stories. It would be safe to say there's a connection to that.
Good Lord.
But this is like, you know, back in the day, it can like, oh, he listened to Marilyn Manson, or he listened to
even the fact that this one said that she had always been looking at Soul Eater. It's because the name of the manga is Soul Eater, which sounds maybe that it's like satanistic or something. But if you actually watch it, it might as well be Power Rangers. Like it's just groups of people fighting good versus evil, all that sort of shit.
During an early 2015 epidemic of suicide attempts, YouTube algorithm attempts by young people ages 12 to 24 on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, Slender Man was cited as an influence. The Oglala Sioux tribe president noted that many Native Americans traditionally believe in a YouTube algorithm spirit similar to the Slender Man. Other Sioux describe the big man as a messenger or sign, warning that society is developing in a dangerous direction.
Oh, yeah.
Well, big man, you fucking cunt. A documentary film on the incident called Beware the Slender Man, directed by Irene Taylor Brodsky, was released by HBO Films on March 2016 and was broadcast on HBO on January 23rd, 2017. Now, there you are.
Yeah, so there you go. So I think that's probably, it might be why the Slender Man has endured a bit longer.
Yeah.
Is because there's a real life
Component.
It's basically outside of the Slender Man being there, all the other factors are kind of there. Do you know what I mean? Like that idea of the proxy who works on Slender Man's behalf and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. This brings us to the kind of wrap up, which is the digital folklore component to all this. This kind of interesting. I've kind of tried to get rid of some of it because some of it got a little bit too
shite.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. They're actually, because they're legit academics. Oh, yeah. And academics tend to write in a way where you have to try to untangle what they're saying. It was one of the things that really struck me when I was in college. I was like, why is everyone writing in order to make you not understand it? Yeah. Like the way the words are written it frustrated me. I just couldn't understand the logic behind it. It's like, look at how academic I am.
That's probably it.
I can't even make sense like a normal person. I have to make sense like a fucking idiot.
Well, it's, I suppose,
a poncy, sort of pompous way.
Well, that's what it is, like, it's just wank.
Yeah.
Which is why they'll never be Dan Brown.
Well, at the end of the day, which academics are make it all.
Yeah, sitting around on their fucking, think they're class and all.
Yeah.
Dan Brown, though.
Write a story about class stuff, though.
Write a story about fucking, what are they called? Opus Dei and all, son.
Yeah, don't know nothing.
Don't know nothing about the Illuminati and all your fucking ages.
Oh, yeah, teach the boys history and all with all your big words. Dan Brown, son. But this part is quite interesting, to be fair. So this is the idea of the digital folklore.
Digital Fortress is a Dan Brown.
Digital Fortress is a Dan Brown. He's working on Digital Folklore.
This is the sequel to it.
So several scholars have argued that despite being a fictional work with an identifiable origin point, the Slender Man represents a form of digital folklore. Shira Chess, which is a cool name, argues that the Slender Man exemplifies the similarities between traditional folklore and the open source ethos of the internet, and that unlike those of traditional monsters such as vampires and werewolves, the fact that Slender Man's mythos can be tracked and signposted offers a powerful new insight into how myth and folklore form. Chess identifies three aspects of the Slender Man mythos that tie it to folklore. Collectivity, meaning that it's created by a collective rather than a single individual. Variability, meaning that the story changes depending on the tenor. And performance, meaning that the storyteller's narrative changes to reflect the audience's response, which I think is a pretty cool way of it's all happening online or whatever, but this is what would have been happening around the campfire, and then someone else is telling the story to someone. It's I think there's a lot of it's true. I think. Media scholar and folklorist Andrew Peck attributes the success of Slender Man to its highly collaborative nature. Because the character and its motives are shrouded in mystery, users can easily adapt existing Slenderman tropes and imagery to create new stories. This ability for users to tap into the ideas of others while also supplying their own helped inspire that collaborative culture that arose surrounding the Slenderman. Instead of privileging the choices of certain creators as canonical, this collaborative culture informally locates ownership of the creature across the community. In these respects, the Slender Man is similar to campfire stories or urban legends, and the character's success comes from enabling both social interaction and personal acts of creative expression. So like fan fiction. Although nearly all users understand that the Slender Man is not real, they suspend that disbelief in order to become more engrossed with telling or listening to these stories. This adds a sense of authenticity to Slender Man legend performances and blurs the lines between legend and reality, keeping the creature as an object of legend dialectic. This ambiguity has led some to some confusion over the character's origin and purpose. Only 5 months after his creation, George Noory's Coast to Coast AM, so this is like after Art Bell was gone, I think, a radio call-in show devoted to paranormal and conspiracy theories, began receiving calls asking about the Slender Man. And 2 years later, an article in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune described his origins as difficult to pinpoint. Eric Knudsen has commented that many people, despite understanding that the Slender Man was created on the Something Awful forums, still entertain the possibility that he might be real.
No.
Shira Tress describes the Slender Man as a metaphor for helplessness, power differentials, and anonymous forces. Peck sees parallels between the Slender Man and the common anxieties about the digital age, such as feelings of constant connectedness and unknown third-party observation. I think that's a kind of cool subtext to it. The Slender Man is constant connectedness because he's always there and just he's always stalking you. It's and he can appear at any moment, anywhere.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. We're nearly through this. We have 3 short paragraphs left. Ty Van Horn, a writer for The Elm, has suggested that the Slender Man represents modern fear of the unknown. In an age flooded with information, people have become so unaccustomed to ignorance that they now fear what they cannot understand. Troy Wagner, the creator of the Marble Hornets series, ascribes the terror of the Slender Man to its malleability. People can shape it into whatever frightens them most. Tina Marie Boyer noted that the Slender Man is a prohibitive monster, but the cultural boundaries he guards are not clear. Victims do not know when they have violated or crossed a line that will make the Slender Man target them.
True.
Professor Thomas Pettit of the University of Southern Denmark has described the Slender Man as being an exemplar of the modern age's closing of the Gutenberg parenthesis.
No.
The time period from the invention of the printing press to the spread of the web in which stories and information were codified in discrete media, to a return to the older, more primal fears of storytelling, exemplified by oral tradition and campfire tales, in which the same story can be retold, reinterpreted, and recast by different storytellers, allowing the lore to expand and evolve with time.
Finn.
Huh. So there you go. There's the Slender Man.
Modern, yeah, sort of. He's probably one of the more substantial modern folkloric creatures.
Yeah.
Like modern folklore dudes that has the most weight. Like, I'm trying to think of anything that we've done even that might be even somewhere similar, and I don't think
there's nothing that has that, because I think because it's so, the chronicles of the Slender Man are so easily identified that you sort of know it's fake, but it's still, because even that one, The Rake, like I remember when that started becoming popular, and it was basically just a creepypasta thing as well, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I think so.
But there's people who it's called the Death Gate or the White Gate, or there's like people that basically say, I've seen this thing out there, like, and I know people have said that about Slender Man as well, but Slender Man, I don't know, I think as well, because it's such a bit of a bizarre, like we've done lots of like Indrid Cold, the Smiling Man, and that's a, like Men in Black kind of a thing, but it has there's some sort of semblance of sensibility to it. Whereas the Slender Man is just like, it's like, oh, I'm a faceless lad in a suit that has tentacles for arms sometimes, and I can be like, doesn't make really any sense.
Most of the time, though, scary stuff doesn't.
That's true.
Like,
yeah.
If we we could sit here right now, and our listeners could be sitting listening to this when they're on a drive or when they're at their office or doing whatever they're doing, and they hear the story of the Slender Man or any of the stories we've talked about on this pod over the years, and they kind of go, oh yeah, whatever, that's cool, whatever. But then you go out and you camp in the woods at night, and it's pitch black. All of a sudden you start talking about Slender Man, Weetabix. It's so the context is key. Like,
here's the thing for you. This is something that I had thought before, but I heard it articulated way better on a different podcast I listened to, and I went, ooh, that's one to fucking freak out about. If the world is made up of quantum probabilities as we think it is.
Yeah.
And the universe is infinite. That means that at some point,
Slenderman.
everything will happen because the probability of Slender Man is extremely small, right? But in a quantum infinite universe, it has to happen. Everything kind of has to happen.
Class?
Not well, depending on where you are when he shows up.
True.
You know, I don't want to be around, so quantum physics, leave me out of this one. Thanks.
It also means dinosaurs might show up in my lifetime.
Well, this is it, you know. Sometimes you wonder about, because we talked about this before, the brain and the filters on it, and is your brain, you know, when you start to take various substances, or you have brain injuries, or you have certain types of mental illness, like we said, is the Slender Man there? The filters were off for these kids for a moment. And you kind of almost feel bad about that because you sensationalize what's obviously a horrible thing to happen to a 12-year-old girl. But I've been listening a lot to like American Alchemist, and there's some other podcasts like that, but they get deep into the woods of like lads who are big into they're quantum physics guys, or at least they know a lot more about it than I do. But they're also mad into like UAPs, tulpas, thought forms, which is a tulpa, I suppose, and all this kind of weird high strangeness stuff, and they kind of bring them all in together. So it's look, if you think about these things at the wrong time, you get the heebie-jeebies. Weetabix. Yeah, you're just like, I just want to pay my taxes and my mortgage, and I don't want any spooky shit.
Slender Man's getting you on the way home.
Yeah. Well, it's in my head. I can see it because I usually drive home through where DID is. It's a spooky way to drive home, but it's quicker. And but not tonight. Tonight we're driving home on the national road.
We'll leave it there.
Yeah,
it's getting late tonight, so Slender Man's going to come out and get us. Hope you enjoyed this episode, folks. I've been Rob.
I've been Eamon.
Monster Fuzz over and out.
Bye.